Hey there, I hope you're doing well. So, normally I do all things Spanish on this channel, but today I thought I'd let you get to know me a little bit better through a Draw My Life video. So, here we go. I was born on December 13th, 1999 in Southern California. I grew up with two amazing parents who have supported me unconditionally since the day I was born. I also have two older brothers who I love dearly. Growing up as three boys, we were constantly fighting, building Legos, playing video games, and just being overall rambunctious. I really looked up to my brothers since they were much older than me, and I felt like they knew all of life's most difficult questions. And when I wasn't at home with my family, I was at my nanny's house. She was my mom's coworker's mother and one of the most amazing women ever. Since both of my parents had crazy work schedules, my mom was a nurse and my dad was a firefighter, people used to say that we were the safest house on the block. I was at my nanny's around 3 times a week. She spoiled me like you would not believe. I seriously don't know how I got away with being such a spoiled little king. She'd make me the most delicious hamburgers, hot dogs, chips, and pretty much any other unhealthy food you can think of every single time I was over. I'm not kidding, I would spend the entire day, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., sitting in her rocking chair, watching TV, eating junk food, and playing with the plethora of animals in their house. I mean, I was practically raised by dogs, cats, birds, turtles, horses, and even flying squirrels. I loved it. I started staying with her from when I was just a few weeks old until around the age of 12. When I was about 8 years old, I got appendicitis and I had to have my appendix removed as soon as possible. It was the size of an adult appendix, and if it were to rupture, let's just say it would have been really bad. Thankfully, the surgery went okay, but for the next few years after the surgery, I had really bad anxiety. This was a super dark time in my life. Being a kid with anxiety and panic attacks is not fun. To this day, I'm not entirely sure why I began having them. However, I think it's from the strong drugs I was prescribed at such a young age. The anxiety was really bad at some points, and I vividly remember my mom having to coddle me and put lavender oil on my neck. There was one time when I was in a movie theater and I started having a panic attack and had to go outside and eventually leave. It was not fun. And I never want to feel like that again and don't want anyone to have to feel that way. I think this time period in my life really made me want to always treat people in the best possible way and try my hardest to understand where people are coming from before judging them, because you really just never know what's going on in someone's life. I also played a bunch of sports as a kid. Soccer was the first and probably my least favorite sport, but when you're a little kid, I suppose it's good to get the wiggles out and run around on a field. Then I moved on to baseball, which was my main love for the majority of my childhood. I played first base and pitched since I'm a lefty, and it was always a treat to go to the snack bar after a game and get a tasty burger or the mystery airhead flavor. I made a lot of friends playing baseball, but eventually just lost the love for it. Next was archery. I was around 11 when I did archery, and even though I only did it for about a year and a half, I actually went to the Junior Olympics and placed third in my age group for archery. It's a very random time period in my life looking back, but pretty cool. Just at the end of 6th grade, I transitioned from playing handball at recess to basketball. The moment I realized basketball was my favorite sport was when my good friend Julian tried to steal the ball from me, and I absolutely broke his ankles. Everyone yelled, and I felt like the man. From middle school up until junior year of high school, I would spend almost all of my time playing basketball. I remember not making the team my first year of middle school and being totally crushed. The next year when I tried out, a really close friend of mine said to me, "Hey, you're not gonna make the team." So when I did make the team, I made sure to rub it in his face in the most humble way possible. I also grew up loving to play instruments, especially the piano. I took traditional lessons for a few years, then eventually stopped. Nowadays, I just enjoy playing the piano and guitar in my free time. So when I finally got to high school, this was really the point in my life when I began to find out what I truly loved and didn't. I got really into photography and making videos because my mom let me borrow her camera my freshman year so I could take some photos of my outdoor adventures with my best friend, Chris. This is the time period when the Nate's Adventures YouTube channel was born. Chris and I made some funny videos that got us some attention on campus, and we enjoyed it a lot. When I wasn't going to basketball practice or hanging out with friends, I was immersing myself in my newfound love for the Spanish language. I had never really considered learning a language before going to high school, so it was a big shock to me when I attended my first Spanish class and just fell head over heels in love with it. I loved the challenge and the seemingly infinite amount of things to learn. Now, that might seem kind of counterintuitive and something that could be really unmotivating, but it was just an amazing feeling to discover and learn something new every day. Not to mention, it was just really cool to be able to use something I was learning in the classroom almost immediately as I walked out of the door. I've talked about this before here on this channel, but speaking Spanish is honestly just like playing an instrument. You can learn songs on the piano, for example, which is the equivalent of learning important phrases in Spanish. Or you can learn the notes, scales, octaves, and so on. These are like the inner workings of Spanish, the grammar, the tenses. Now, for me, I absolutely hated practicing piano because I had way more fun playing songs than I did learning scales. But for Spanish, it was the other way around. I really liked diving deep into how the language works because it almost drove me crazy when I didn't understand or know why something was the way it was. My curiosity really helped me learn fast, and I was always the student asking at least 10,000 questions per class. And the awesome thing about Spanish is that you can get instant feedback from the people you're speaking Spanish with. That was a huge bonus for me, and I think if I hadn't had the opportunity to speak Spanish with so many native speakers at school, I wouldn't have had the same drive that I did. So throughout high school, I was a TA, a teacher's assistant, for a native Spanish speakers class, which definitely helped me be exposed to more spoken Spanish on a day-to-day basis. I also volunteered at the International Language School for Children and Adults, teaching adults conversational Spanish on the weekends. This helped me improve my vocabulary skills a lot, especially because I was being asked how to say infrequent and obscure words in almost every class. I also practiced a lot of Spanish working at my first job in a frozen yogurt store with all of the customers that would come in. And I did the same thing at a host job in a Spanish restaurant. There was a really funny dishwasher who worked there, and every time I would go to fill up water jugs in the kitchen, he would say to me, "Échale gas, carnal," basically meaning like, give it gas, bro. By the time senior year of high school came around, I was now rock climbing instead of playing as much basketball. I was on the comedy sports team, I got more into surfing, and I was just trying to make the most of my last year. After completely humiliating my dad by winning prom king my senior year, he was the Sadie Hawkins king in high school, so I had to one-up him. I went on an absolutely incredible trip to Mexico with my best friend Luis, which seriously changed my life. I saw some of the happiest people there and really began to focus on cultivating a life full of joy, family, and friends like I had experienced in Mexico. It taught me that the good life doesn't come from material goods, it comes from great relationships. After high school graduation, I enrolled in a local community college and met my English professor, Dr. Solwak. This man changed my life forever. Soft-spoken, kind, and a vivacious reader, he inspired me to begin reading books again. Now, that might not sound like much, but once I began reading books daily, my life began to change for the better like I could not believe. Every aspect of my life began to improve. The lesson here is to read books. They will make your life so rich. Thanks again, Dr. Solwak. My second semester at community college was when I went to study abroad in Sevilla, Spain. I was there for 3 months and lived with the host family. Here, I met my best friend Oliver, and we are still extremely close even after all these years. What an incredible and unique opportunity to live in and explore a new country with a bunch of new friends. Seriously, I don't know when I will have an opportunity like that again in the future. Very grateful to have been able to do that. Once I got home from Spain, I was motivated to teach others the language too. So I made my first Spanish course, which failed miserably, terribly, so bad. And this is also when I accidentally met the famous YouTuber, Xiaoma. It's a weird and long story, and I made a video about it here on the channel, but he is probably the reason you are watching this video right now. After we made a few videos together of me teaching him Spanish on his YouTube channel, my own YouTube videos really began to take off. Thanks again, Arya. Nowadays, I've just graduated from college. I just got home from an incredible trip to Europe. I have a brand new Spanish academy on my website, SpanishWithNate.com. I'm making YouTube videos learning Mandarin Chinese, trying to improve my chess skills, and making sure to spend lots of time with family and friends. It really is my life goal and purpose to help you with your own Spanish learning journey, and I really look forward to the future and what it holds. If you have any more questions for me, just leave a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. Adios.